Thank you, Rebecca. We have an amazing group of leadership with this organization, and we're lucky to have people like Rebecca who continue to lead with vision for this organization. I want to start at the conclusion. And the conclusion is the work you're doing is having impact. The work you're doing is impacting the marketplace. We come to RESO to build standards, to build ideas, to think about what's coming next. But today, in the marketplace, the work you're doing is impacting our businesses and our customers. You see on the left side of this screen, over 90% of MLSs in the US have a certified web API service with certified data dictionary data feeds. Now, because of the size of those organizations, about 96% of subscribers in the US have access to those kinds of services. On the right side, you see the impact, which is the next level, which is getting the customers to transition. Not just having an MLS web API service, but converting customers, vendors, brokers' data feeds over to a standardized data feed. And in the past 3 years, you've gone from about 3% utilization in terms of data feeds to just last month crossing the 50% threshold for the entire industry of US MLS subscribers. Give yourself a hand. That's impact. And you can't have that kind of impact without vision. You have to have leadership with vision. Folks with vision and strategy to drive what we do and what we build, what you build at RESO. And your board of directors are that vision. They set our strategic plan, and they drive us forward to have that impact on the industry. Would you please join me? Could we have our directors please stand? And please join me in a big round of applause for your board of directors. It's an incredible group from all different parts of the real estate industry, because that's who we serve. As RESO, we serve all stakeholders in the real estate industry, not just MLSs, not just associations, not just brokers, but also agents and consumers. And so it's great to have that wide spread of directors on our board to make sure we get all those voices in that conversation. And we need that kind of leadership to be able to look forward, the kind of vision we have on our board of directors, to be able to look forward and see what might be coming to us 1 year, 3 years, 5 years down the road. You hear a lot about AI at these events, not to be flashy, not to just talk about shiny objects, but to talk about things that are impacting your marketplace, your business tools, your customers today. And you're going to see a lot of those sessions during this event. Greg Sachs and I had a chance to go down to the Blueprint conference this year in Las Vegas. I don't know if you've heard about the conference. It's a big event, lots of folks from all kinds of different parts of the real estate industry and lots of technology. And we saw an AI application there that we think is probably the most valuable and specifically related to the work we do that we've ever seen in AI before. We said AI was everywhere. Well, it's everywhere. It's actually a really interesting product if you look into it. I don't know if you all flew in through DFW, but as you walk down the hallways, there's screens on the walls near the restrooms that show you how many stalls are open, how many urinals are open. I'm not sure what kind of sensors they're using to tell you that, but technology can go too far sometimes. So that brings us to our next point. Could you raise your hand if you are a first-time attendee? Yeah, that's a big part of why we have our biggest crowd ever, why we opened up more walls to get more folks in here. We're excited to have you here at the event. We tell stupid jokes. You'll hear some unscripted conversations, so just relax. It's a low-key event. It's a friendly community. Just sit back, meet some folks, learn what you can. You'll have a good time. Make sure you ask us if you need anything as staff. And if you do have questions about what RESO does, because especially if you're a first-time attendee, you might be saying, what is a data standards conference, and who dragged me into this? We have a new knowledge base on the RESO website. So go to reso.org. We've got 7 category FAQs, about 200 new questions and answers for you. That's our goal, is to be able to answer any question you have in the knowledge base at any time. But if there's something that you still have a question about that you can't find there, feel free to go to email us at info@reso.org. We want to make sure this is the best resource we can to help you understand all of the nuances of what we do. And staff is here to support you this week. Make sure if you're having an issue, you can ask any of us for help. Suzanne Bigginson, our COO, runs these events, as you know, runs these events very well. But our entire staff is here to help you out, make sure you get the experience you need, or meet the person that you want to meet while you're here. So let's talk a little bit about what we do as an open standards organization, because you all come from different parts of the industry, and some of this may be new to you. Open standards as a concept, the best, easiest way to describe it is to look at the internet. The internet is just a stack of open standards. It's a collection of open sets of rules that people came together and negotiated. And you can get into the technical TCP, IP, FTP, HTTP. They're just rules the technical folks came together and negotiated. And you can imagine if you were at the start of that set of organizations building the open standards for the internet decades and decades ago, could they even have pictured what it would look like today? That you have an information resource right now where a child in any remote village, anywhere in the world, can get a free internet connection from Starlink through UNICEF, can get an open source phone or laptop for $50, and can study any subject in any language from anywhere in the world. It's pretty incredible. But it all started with just people telling a story to each other about what kind of a resource they could build with open standards. That they could build this amazing rising tide that lifts all boats if they all believed in a set of rules, but also if they all participated in that set of rules. Because if they didn't abide by the rules, the system wouldn't work. What we do at RESO is a small part of that, a small part of the web ecosystem. But it's critically important because it's housing, because it's real estate, because we don't sell widgets and video games, because you're working on transactions with people in the most important transactions of their lives. And we know what that looks like when we don't have rules, when we don't have standards, when we see the same property listed 3 times at 3 different prices on the same website. It might already be sold, might have never been a valid listing at all. And that's a bad consumer experience because there are no rules. And as Rebecca said, the international community wants the standards, wants the rules that make our marketplaces work and make their systems more accurate in our marketplace. But standards are hard. Standards are difficult. There's a lot of friction in the way of change. We work with our European counterparts, and even though some of these electrical outlets do deliver a slightly different voltage, amperage of electricity, most of them don't. Most of them deliver the same thing. And yet we have all these different interfaces that don't make life better for anyone, but that friction is there. We were sort of nudging our European friends over this as we had the international forum and said, you know, we've gotten more standardization internationally in emojis than we do in electrical outlets. Now, they thought that was sort of funny, but they said, when we go to American conferences in the past few years, this is what you would send us as swag. Remember those? A little bit old. And then they really dug the knife in a little bit harder by reminding us that they have one open standard that every mobile phone has to use to charge their phones. Now, we're not saying that we need government intervention to create standards in our marketplace. That's what we do from our businesses directly. But you can understand that goal, that efficiency that they have for something as simple as charging a phone, that we'd have one open standard to support that. And it's important because the market's so big, because there's $30 trillion worth of transaction volume happening globally every year. And there's about $600 trillion worth of global real estate value. That market needs to be liquid. That market needs to be transparent. Everyone's better off when you can move a transaction quickly, smoothly, efficiently. And it needs rules because people need to trust the marketplace, like a stock market. If people trust the marketplace, buyers, sellers, investors, they're willing to transact because they believe, they trust the information, the data they're getting on that market because there are rules and standards around that. And that's why, as Rebecca told you, we're working internationally because there is no African Wi-Fi, there's no Asian Bluetooth, there are just global standards. And what RESO does is international. We had CEO of eXp World Holdings come speak at this event, Glenn Sanford, the #1 brokerage in the world right now for transaction sides. And we signed an accord with the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board to host the International Forum next year in 2025. And with the multi-billion-dollar prop tech development fund for the United Arab Emirates to host in Abu Dhabi in 2026. The world wants what we have here, MLSs, data standards. They're all seeking that. And what they're seeking is certainty, that the information that they get from the real estate services is accurate. And it's not just about a website, it's not just about a listing, it's about governments, developers, wanting to be able to trust the information that they get, wanting to be able to build the future of their communities with accurate information. So we provide that through certification. And I know certification sometimes probably looks like a black box to a lot of folks, so I think it's good just to talk a little bit about what it actually works like. On an average MLS system, we run about 1 million tests on 100,000 records on that system. A very large MLS system might be a few million tests. And that sounds like a lot, and for any of you who've ever replicated, initialized an MLS database, you know that can be a lot. It can take hours, it can take days for you to get started with a new MLS system. And that's not a limitation of the technology. When we run tests on a large MLS, it might take days. This isn't a technology limitation. This is Amazon Web Services running it. It's as fast as it can be, but they're massive data sets. And while it might feel a little bit like a black box, it's open rules. The testing rules are the rules you wrote. Member organizations write those rules. They're published publicly so everyone can understand what those tests are and build systems based on those rules and those tests. So let's celebrate some of the companies who have gone through that testing, gone through that certification. We've been working on Data Dictionary for a little while for 2.0. Probably the biggest improvement we've ever made as an organization, the biggest benefit to our data consumers in the industry. And we have some companies leading the charge with the first certifications now. Our first vendor with MLS customers, CoreLogic with Western Arizona Realtor Data Exchange, WARDEX, and Lake of the Ozarks Board of Realtors, MLS Grid, SourceRE, Centris, ZenList, and the homegrown system for Pikes Peak Realtor Services. Can you please give these folks a big round of applause? So we've got a handful of these categories now. We used to just certify Data Dictionary and Web API, but we have some newer standards that we certify now. You may have heard of RESO Common Format. It's just a way to package up your data so that any company can interoperate with another company regardless of what kind of API you use. It's like an address. You expect to get the address with a street number, a street name, a suffix, a city, a state, a zip, maybe a province and a country. We all expect that shape. And that's what RESO Common Format allows companies to do in an open, trusted, standard way to move data between different companies. We have Agent Book, iGuide, and MPAC, all from Canada, as some of our first implementers. PlaceKey, a new entrant to the RESO space, ZenList, and Pearl Certification have all gotten the first certifications on RESO Common Format. Could you please give them a hand? UPI. We've been talking about UPI for a long time, haven't we? Well, we have liftoff. We have liftoff on version 2, and we have companies now putting UPI in production in their data sets. We have PlaceKey, we have Broker Public Portal, and CoreLogic, all using this now in production. Can you please give them a hand? And AdEdit, which most of you probably know now, a way to have multiple different systems use standards to add listing and property information to a single repository in an open, standardized way. And then validation expressions, which is just the technical systems understanding at a technical level what the business rules look like to get the right information in so that a list price isn't negative and doesn't have a letter in it, et cetera. And we have a number of companies who've been certified, MLS Listings, Perchwell and Rebney, Realtina, SourceRE, OcuCell, and ZenList. Can you please give them a round of applause? In our last set of certifications, webhooks push an entity event, essentially a way to make sure we're logging every change in an easily trackable way that happens to property records, and that we can identify information that's ready to be picked up by a consumer and push a notification to them to be more efficient in terms of how we have requests going back and forth between different organizations. Our first certifications there are FBS, Constellation One, and Rental Beast. Please give them a round of applause. So a little bit of logistics for this week. We have sessions in the morning. Tomorrow morning we start with roundtables and then go into sessions, and then we have work groups in the afternoons. Thank you to Realtor.com for sponsoring the roundtables. One of our sessions, we've got a QR code up here for you. One of our sessions was requested by members that we do a non-technical, just sort of Q&A, some of the topics that you hear. So when you hear sessions and you have a question, maybe you've already got one this morning, maybe you'll have questions that come up during the sessions, during the day today. If you use this QR code, pull your phone out and just pull up the camera. You can ask questions anonymously, because not everybody wants to ask the question that they think may be a dumb question. And we'll review those during the roundtables. And you can come and just hear the answers to those questions. And we'll review the questions without your name if you don't want to attach your name to it. Working with Real Estate Data course, we have about 1,300 people who've taken the course now. A big success, much bigger than we thought it would be. All of these companies you see here are Red Ambassadors. They have 20 or more employees who have taken the course. Zillow and Realtor.com have both subscribed to unlimited annual memberships because they're training so many of their employees when they onboard for the course. So if you're bringing new employees on board from outside the industry and you want a quick training so they can understand how the logistics of the industry work around technology, this is a good opportunity for you. And we're onboarding a new course as a Canadian version. You know that Red B is fairly American. There's lots of concepts that work everywhere, but it's a fairly American course. So we've been working with Canadian Real Estate Association to adapt a Canadian version of this course. We've gone through legal review. Now we need to still translate into French Canadian, but we're very thankful to CREA for working on this course with us. Could you please thank CREA with me? And you may have seen our white papers and case studies we've been publishing since the last event. The data sharing white paper is available to you at reso.org. This isn't an instruction manual. It's not telling you you should or should not data share. It's a point in time, a picture of a point in time of where data shares are today, what they look like, how they're structured, and challenges that have come from the folks who have implemented data shares. We'll talk a little bit more about a couple more case studies, but if you're looking at common integrations and a way to align your data with data partners, you get a lot of tips from this. So thank you to all of you who helped contribute to that resource. And our RESO Analytics alignment reports are now available. So when you get your certifications, you will get an industry alignment report, complimentary, which will show you what your data set looks like compared to industry averages. It'll be a detailed report and a visual report, and we'll help your team make decisions about what kind of changes you may want to make to your data set based on some third-party information. We also have premium reports available, if you have multiple APIs and you want to see where those match up and where they don't. And then you can talk with your vendors with objective third-party information about how you would like those to align and what decisions you make going forward, as well as market alignment reports, where you may be working on a common integration, you may be working on a data share. When we take those certified data sets and see where they match up, you can work with those partners then, again, with objective third-party information to help you make data-driven decisions. This QR code will take you to the alignment reports. You can also just go to reso.org and search for alignment reports, and you'll find those. I want to send a special thank you to the National Association of Realtors. We can't build this kind of technology to help you with your data-driven decision-making without membership. You're all supporting member organizations, and in particular, NAR has made a specific investment into sponsoring this technology development to help MLS organizations have better information and be better able to work with their technology partners with that information. Could you please help me give NAR a big hand for that work? So we're back to where we started. Impact on the marketplace. It's why you're here, not just for ideas, not just for work groups, but to have impact on the marketplace. And you're here in a little bit of a difficult time for the industry. There's a little bit of angst out there. There's a little bit of uncertainty. But you're here because you have your own company and you still see the importance of what we do here. Because you have the vision to see we need to be looking down the road, even in a time where there's some difficulty in the industry. And you've got the courage to be here and work through the uncertainty and the fear that some are going through. And for that, we thank you. Thank you.